What is up guys, Deadset here. It's Sanctuary Sunday once again, and this can only mean one thing. We're talking fluff over mechanics. Today's video is dedicated to the intertwining ways of the Warcraft and Diablo universes and how we can expect Azeroth to bleed into Sanctuary very soon. We've already seen dozens of Easter eggs planted into the surface of our beloved hack and slash pastime. Many are in the convenient form of items: the Dwarf Fortress reference of the Burning Axe of Sankis, the Aqua Teen Hunger Force reference with the Ancient Bone Saber of Zumakalis, the Dead Mouse reference with the Halcyon Ascent. Others become part of the world with the Dune reference of Shaitan the Broodmother and the Lost reference with the Blackrock Ledger. There are tons of individual winks and nods to popular fiction outside of Blizzard's own. Blizzard's other big fantasy universe, however, was a much bigger source of inspiration for references, with items, props, and even monster design showing up to remind you that Azeroth might be a faraway place but was made by the same hearts and hands. You can observe the Helm of Domination, the headpiece worn by the Lich King himself, hidden in the frozen depths of icy tile sets like the Caverns of Frost and Icefell Caves. The Murlocket amulet found in the Chaldean sewers summons a suspiciously familiar little critter at your side, and weapons such as the Cataclysm and Wrath of the Bone King are obvious nods to the respective expansion packs of the MMO behemoth. And of course, who could forget Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker, the one-handed sword that matches the meme potential of the original with a powerful unique effect that propels it out of the just for fun category. But in my opinion, none of these references can hold a candle to what's to come. A recent data mine published on Diablo Fans revealed the following new weapon art from the depths of the 2.1 files. They might not seem familiar to you on first sight, so let me clarify. Pretty curious, wouldn't you say? 5 weapons from 5 iconic orc chieftains of the Old Horde, ripping right through space and time to add to the power of Nephilim heroes, is a tantalizing, if canon-destroying proposition. But what can the original owners tell us about those weapons, and what could they actually be? Let's take a closer look. First, we have Kargath Bladefist, leader of the Shattered Hand clan, one of the original members of the Shadow Council, and the only member that was not a warlock to reach the Inner Circle. While the Old Horde crossed the Dark Portal, Kargath and the Shattered Hand clan stayed behind on Draenor under the treachery-filled, uneasy rule of Ner'zhul. Following the events of the Second War and the realization that he was simply a distraction meant to buy Ner'zhul time, Kargath retreats in hopes of restoring his clan to former glory. Beaten and broken, he is easy prey to the allure of the corruptive might of Magtheridon, but turns to serve Illidan Stormrage soon after. Twisted by fell magic and the tragedies that befell his people, Kargath meets his end in the Hellfire Citadel. History remembers Kargath as a sadistic leader, rising to prominence simply by being the most hate-filled orc to ever attach a scythe to the stump of his severed wrist. Initiates of his clan, the Shattered Hand, follow the body modification of their chieftain, but replacing their hand is just the first of many new scars, both on their own bodies and the malleable forms of their foe's flesh. In my opinion, this is a great opportunity to introduce a truly evil monk weapon, both looks and effects-wise. Perhaps a legendary weapon based around Bleed, which is a weapon stat that heavily fell out of favor in Reaper of Souls, and is a prime candidate for a game-changing item that focuses on it. Second, we have Blackhand, first war chief of the Old Horde. He was recognized by Gul'dan to be a strong, charismatic leader figure, but ultimately prideful, greedy, and foolish. In short, Blackhand was everything that Gul'dan was not, and a perfect puppet for the Warlock's hands. In his lust for power, he committed great atrocities, submitting his children to accelerated growth through demonic powers, offering his shamans for warlock trainees, the invasion of Shatrath, and the brutal First War. For all that and more, he meets his rightful end at the blade of Orgrim Doomhammer. Despite the misdeeds, some things remain undeniable. He was a tactically brilliant weapon master, with both the ambition to rule and the cruelty to maintain his hold on all that he conquered. History remembers that under his leadership, the bold orcs of the Blackrock clan arm an entire world with the strength of steel. Blackrock slaves labor whipcrack to whipcrack on frightful siege engines, weapons that will inevitably be turned against the slaves' families, neighbors, and homes. How does that translate into a two-handed mighty weapon? The first idea that springs to mind is to have this weapon be the long-awaited Wrath of the Berserker cooldown reduction weapon, to have a barbarian answer to the Akan set for Crusaders. But doing this through a single weapon is not really fitting and is much less of a gear commitment compared to the 6-piece gear set, so perhaps it should be oriented towards a stronger Warlord theme, for example, giving you twice the number of Call of the Ancient Summons. Third, we have Kilrogg Deadeye, leader of the Bleeding Hollow clan. He is a cunning and pragmatic chieftain who led his clan safely through the turmoil of the changing war chiefs and the coup attempts by his own children. Despite falling to Menoroth's promises like most other clan leaders, Kilrogg manages not to lose sight of what it means to be an orc. The ultimate testament of his iron will was the time when he was cut off from Draenor after the orcish defeat in the Second War. Despite the failed conquest and the capture of Warchief Doomhammer, Kilrogg refuses to surrender and evades Alliance capture for 2 years before he manages to reunite with the Ner'zhul horde through the reopened Dark Portal. The aging chieftain manages to serve his people one last time and meets the end that he foresaw himself at the blade of Danath Trollbane. His legacy and tenacity continues to live on through his son, Jorin Deadeye. History remembers Kilrogg Deadeye as the chieftain who foresaw his own death, and his embrace to the finality of fate is what led him to tear out his left eyeball in a brutally symbolic gesture. So what would the mace of this esteemed warlord do? It is known that members of the Bleeding Hollow clan slather their weapons in hallucinogenic venom and stalk prey from the treetops, branding their victims' final moments with visions of pure terror. The easy association would be a weapon based around fearing your enemy, but it is well-known reality of Diablo that fear effects are usually regarded as annoying rather than useful. So my suggestion would be to play around with the signature warlock ability Eye of Kilrogg to create the first vision-related legendary in Diablo 3. Naturally, without having to control the eye itself, but for example, having it in your main hand would mark both exits of the zone that you're in and the location of all elite packs. I think this would be a pretty cool effect. The fourth character represented by a weapon is Ner'zhul, who was originally a shaman and a respected spiritual leader of the Shadow Moon clan. His reputable days are long over because of the machinations of Kil'jaeden the Deceiver and the subsequent loss of his sanity. The power-hungry orcish chieftain, known to more recent Azeroth, met his end at the merciless hands of his demonic enslaver, but not before his mad plan for conquest of new worlds tore apart his own. The shattered world we now call the Outland is the final fruit of his dark labor. Even though his downfall is eclipsed by far by the depravity of Gul'dan, history remembers him for his contemplative and forward-thinking ways as well. He held a vision of a united orcish culture, and his clan, the Shadow Moon, has always looked reverently to the stars to guide their fellows. In reality, it was through the manipulations of his former apprentice that the Death Sages of Shadow Moon spelled obliteration for Draenor. His clan was the major player in the conflicts following the conclusion of the Second War. Their numerous raids on Azeroth to procure various items of power, the Book of Medivh, School of Gul'dan, Jeweled Scepter of Sargeras, and the Eye of Dalaran, offer interesting insight both to the artifact-oriented culture of the clan and a lore-appropriate affix for the future item in Diablo. What if the Staff of Ner'zhul actually turns Magic Find into a desirable stat? Something like making the full value of Magic Find apply into finding legendary items instead of the usual 10%, which could lead to the rebirth of dedicated Magic Find characters. Not saying this is the best idea, but it was something I was thinking about. And of course, the fifth iconic character that will be represented by an item is Ner'zhul himself. He is the perfect warlock, cunning, ruthless, and evil to the core. Recognized for his qualities, he was given tremendous powers by Kil'jaeden and tasked with repurposing the Horde. He formed the Stormreaver clan, and the Shadow Council pulled the strings of the first war chief Blackhand, directed the genocide against Draenor, and along with Medivh was directly responsible for the opening of the Dark Portal. Once he started the bloodshed, he turned an uncaring shoulder to the Horde and set his sights to the promises of his demonic master. He lusted after the secrets hidden deep inside the tomb of Sargeras, the untapped powers that he thought were rightfully his. He raised the tomb of the Titan from the depths of the Great Sea, only to find death instead of godhood. The only remnant of the arguably vilest orc to ever live is his skull, a powerful demonic artifact that last fell into Illidan's hands and probably influenced his behavior from that point on. Regardless, it's not the skull that will be in the possession of the Nephilim of Sanctuary, but the glowing green source that has been prominent in the artwork for Warlords of Draenor. What could such an offhand offer to the player wielding it? Considering that the titles bestowed upon Gul'dan are Darkness Incarnate and Destroyer of Dreams, my first impression would be to relate this orb-looking item to a unique affix related to the wizard skill Black Hole. I suppose the easiest option to go along with the theme would be to have a 50% chance to cast a free second black hole on your location, much like the Darklight Flail does with Fist of Heavens. Anyway, this is it from me. What are your thoughts on the crossovers between Warcraft and Diablo? And are you, like me, sad that we are not getting Grom's Gorehowl or the Axe of Durotan along with the other 5 iconic weapons? Well, I hope you liked what you saw, and I would greatly appreciate your subscription to my channel if you did. As always, keep in touch with the Twitter and Facebook that I linked below, and I'll see you guys next time.